The ageless wisdom has had many incarnations over the centuries. As human consciousness evolves, more students are capable of shifting their center of orientation from the emotional plane onto the mental plane, or from the world of ideals to the world of ideas. There, the secrets of number, color, and sound are revealed. Pythagoras taught that numbers are the basis of the universe. The science of numbers is, in reality, the science of color and sound. As science unfolds, the law of vibration will gradually be more understood. Yet, humanity has never been alone in its eternal quest for knowing God. For millions of years, the spiritual guides of the race have watched over humanity. They are our elder brothers, who have traversed the path a little longer than the average man and have thus become the custodians of the ancient mysteries. Today, when they glance at the auras of humanity, they are delighted that universal education has and is developing the lower mind, called the intellect. That is, when more of the ageless wisdom teachings are given to humanity by advanced disciples. Yet, cutting-edge science has also come a long way in its own right. This last century has seen profound discoveries made. Dr. Robert Moon was one of the key scientists involved in the Manhattan Project. He built the first scanning X-ray microscope. He found that protons naturally assemble into the Platonic solids. He believed geometry was the key to understanding quantum physics. In Dr. Moon's model, more than one geometric form can nest within the nucleus at the same time. Each one is inside the next. In 1987, he found 4 Platonic polyhedra in the nucleus of an atom. From this, he was able to determine the number of chemical elements in the periodic table. David Wilcock, in his book The Ascension Mysteries, presented evidence that atoms and molecules are not made of particles, but by energy that is appearing in geometric patterns. This is also validated by teachings of the ageless wisdom. All we need to know is that geometry is the visible form of vibration. Dr. Hans Jenny generated geometric patterns, including the cube, in a drop of water. Dr. Jenny started with sand that was floating in a drop of water. This created what looked like a muddy, whitish liquid. Then, he vibrated the drop of water with pure tones of sound. Miraculously, the sand particles arranged into beautiful geometric wave patterns. The same drop of water with the same sand will create totally different geometric patterns depending upon what sound you play into it. Hindus and Buddhists believe that the universe was formed from a primordial sound called the Om, similar to what the Greeks called the Logos or what the Bible calls the Word of God. This triple sound is said to be the basis of all manifestation within the macrocosm and the microcosm. This sound repeats itself on a seemingly infinite scale, thus creating the diversity of all life in cosmos. If pronounced by a very holy and pure man, it will draw out or awaken not only the less exalted potencies residing in the planetary spaces and elements, but even his higher self or the Father within him. Pronounced by an averagely good man in the correct way, it will strengthen him morally, especially if between 2 Oms he meditates intently on the Om within him, concentrating all his attention upon the ineffable glory. But woe to the man who pronounced it after the commission of some far-reaching sin, or from anger. He will thereby only attract to his own impure sphere invisible presences and forces which could not otherwise break through the divine envelope. All the members of the esoteric schools, if earnest in their endeavor to learn, are invited to pronounce the divine word before going to sleep and first thing upon awakening. In the Indian ancient system of physical teaching called yoga, the recitation of certain mantras or verses of Sanskrit is prescribed. Especially important is said to be the way in which the mystical syllable Om or Aum is pronounced. Learned Brahms teach that the illimitable psychic potentiality of the Sanskrit mantras is only drawn out by the adoption of a certain very accurate rule of pronunciation. They say that by formulating the words correctly, a vibration is set upon that part of the ether of space, which enwraps our globe, which makes man the master over all the spirit denizens or the ethereal body of the man himself, purifying its grossness, stimulating its psychic powers out of the normal state of latency, and gradually fortifying them up to the point of mastery over nature's finer forces. Our physical world is simply the result of a certain type of vibration. Yet, this is a part of a larger spectrum, which extends far beyond the mere physical world. The subtle, invisible body of the earth is called the etheric body. It is, in reality, naught but energy. It is composed entirely of myriads of threads of force and points of light. It is this vital body that substands the dense physical body of a planet, or a human being, or a solar system. The etheric body of every human being is an integral part of the etheric body of the planet itself, and consequently of the solar system. Through this medium, every human being is basically related to every other expression of the divine life, minute or grand. The sound Om is said to produce three types of geometric shapes: the square, triangle, and the circle. The geometry of the Earth's etheric body is formed by squares. Squares signify the form of nature, the personality aspect or the vehicle for the soul. The triangle is said to be the geometry of the soul itself. Our planet is not a sacred planet at this time, but it will be a sacred planet millions of years from now, when the squares become triangles. That will mean that the consciousness of humanity will have evolved to such a degree that the soul will be in full control of its vehicle, the personality. By drawing a line through a square, two triangles are formed. To change the squares to triangles, the Tibetan master, DK, requested aspirants to use the power of thought to uplift and transform the consciousness as follows. 3 people agree to link in thought each day. They say the great invocation. They visualize energies of light and goodwill circulating through the 3 focal points of their triangle and pouring out through the network of triangles surrounding the planet. They imagine the hearts and minds of the human family being irradiated with light and goodwill, strengthening all that is good and true and of beauty in the world. Transmission meditation groups were formed throughout the world to do the same work. The spiritual hierarchy would send their energy to their meditators, whose force centers known as chakras would step down the energy, like an electrical transformer. That energy would be anchored on Earth for the use of humanity. In this way, the squares would gradually be changed to triangles. The circle is also the geometry of the etheric body of our sun. The Ageless Wisdom Teachings also posits that space is an entity, and the entire vault of heaven is the phenomenal appearance of that entity. It is not the material appearance, but the phenomenal appearance. Some dim idea providing analogy, even when eluding specifications, might be gained if you will endeavor to think of the human family as an entity. You, as an individual, are an integral part of humanity. Now, extend this idea to a greater phenomenal entity, the solar system. This entity is itself an integral part of a still greater life, which is expressing itself through 7 solar systems, of which ours is but one. It is the life and the influence, the radiations and emanations of this great, inconceivable entity, and the united effect on our unfolding kingdoms of nature, which we shall briefly mention. This indescribable, absolute entity is referred to as the one about whom naught can be said. The 12 constellations in our zodiac form a quaternary, which is its personality. As our body is a living organism with cells forming parts of various organs, so is the universe a living organism with planets, stars, etc., all forming parts of various organisms known as solar systems, constellations, galaxies, etc. All lives are interrelated and interdependent. The greater lives vitalize the lesser kingdoms and hierarchies of lives. The human kingdom vitalizes the animal kingdom, and the animal kingdom vitalizes the plant kingdom, and so on down to the mineral. As we are cells in the body of the Lord of our solar system, it also is a force center in the body of a stupendous Lord. The famous scientist David Bohm stated that the universe is one integral whole. Space is boundless. It cannot be measured. The ineffable, inconceivable, boundless is called the all, or that by the Hindus and others, as it cannot be described. Every mathematical point in space is a life. Pythagoras called this life a monad. A monad is a consciousness center. It is the life aspect of every form from man to atom. Its essence is deity. It is indivisible, while a mineral atom is endlessly divisible. One of the greatest recent disciples of the Masters was Madame H.P. Blavatsky. She was born in Russia in 1831 and died in 1891. She studied in Tibet with the Masters and created the Theosophical Society. In her collected writings, she states, "Esoteric science teaches that every sound in the visible world awakens its corresponding sound in the invisible realms, and arouses to action some force or other on the occult side of nature. Moreover, every sound corresponds to a color and a number, a potency, spiritual, psychic, or physical, and to a sensation on some plane. All these find an echo in every one of the so far developed elements, and even on the terrestrial plane, in the lives that swarm the terrain atmosphere, thus prompting them to action." The Masters have given us sacred words, mantrams, and sounds, which can, when intoned on the right key, change the rate of vibration and establish harmony. Certain sacred vowel sounds, prayers, and especially the Great Invocation, when uttered by a disciple and/or groups, change the rate of vibration and invoke the help and blessings of the spiritual hierarchy of our planet, and also unseen lives known as devas. The Church call these beings angels. As the consciousness expands, and through purity in the life, through study, meditation, and service, the rate of vibration of the cells in the physical and various subtle bodies increase. The keynote and color become more continually refined until eventually union with the Divine Self is attained in a more adequate body. The Tibetan master Dwa Kul said, "When the Divine Self, called the monad by the ancient Greeks, is fully developed, it is the sound that geometrically forces itself into the vision of the beholder." Consciousness is infinite. There is no end to its development, even for the gods.